Hi, my name's Lola, and I can't promise this video will be a super professional, insanely well organized video essay, but perhaps it will at least be a cathartic watch for people who have frustrations about AI art and just want something to throw on in the background while you cook, clean, draw, crochet, whatever it is that you're doing. But I personally have really felt a growing need over time to just discuss again the harm that AI is doing to the art community and how I'm really beginning to get more and more sick of it the longer that it's going on. So this is not scripted, it's not a particularly organized spiel. It's gonna run more like a podcast, I suppose. I have some vague notes in front of me of the topics that I want to cover in this video. So sit back, it might be a long one, so hopefully it'll keep you occupied for a while, but long story short, we're going to be discussing the implications of AI art, although I guess it's not AI art specifically, but more just what people are doing with it and what companies are doing with it as well. How what people are doing is essentially tearing the art community apart online because it's making everyone suspicious of each other, attack each other. People are lying, conning people and scamming for social media clout and also for money. One of the main things that's happening that I'm sure you are all aware of, and we all knew this would be a problem as soon as this technology came out, is these people who just have this compulsion for some reason to pretend that they are artists. So these people who generate AI art and then try to accrue praise for having drawn it even though they didn't. And I've seen this both overtly and subtly because some people will post pictures of AI art and they will outwardly claim that they drew it, and any comments suggesting they didn't, they will argue back and be like, no, I drew this, I made this from scratch. Other people are a lot more subtle. They just post their AI images with no hashtags to indicate that it's AI. It's all of this hashtag illustration, hashtag digital painting. And then when people in the comments are like, wow, you're so talented, you're such an amazing drawer, these people don't make any effort to correct them. They're just like, thank you, I'm glad you like my work. So they're not outwardly, aggressively claiming, I mean, aggressively is a strong word, but you know what I mean. They're not overtly claiming to have drawn it, but there's also no disclosure in the tags that it is art. I'm seeing a lot more of those accounts on Instagram. Just a plea that I think a lot of people would prefer that if you are going to post AI generated images on the internet, please just be upfront about the fact that it is AI art. I cannot understand this specific set of people and what would possibly possess them to pretend that they made something that they didn't. I do get it if the motivation is money, because I'm not saying that it's right, but people have scanned and conned people for money literally since the dawn of time. That makes sense as a motivation. I'm talking about the people who specifically just want to be praised as an artist, and they're not in it to sell brushes that they supposedly used for their artwork. They're not selling a product, they're not selling, those bogus AI courses or books. People are generating how to draw books, but it's all generic AI text and generated step-by-step processes that don't make much sense. Even the artist Jazza got caught out by that in a video a while ago. He ended up buying a how to draw book that was AI. These people are not selling anything. They just genuinely want praise for doing something that they can't do, and I just cannot wrap my head around how that is rewarding. Like, I get that there is obviously joy to be sought from being recognized for something that you're good at, recognized for something that you've put a lot of work and effort into, but I just don't understand what you have to be missing from your life to genuinely get joy from being told by strangers that you're amazing at something that you absolutely can't do. Tracers have always been a thing. There have always been people who have just taken other people's art and reposted it onto their social media and just claims they drew it for absolutely no monetary gain. I get it, it is the same thing. I've never understood it. I used to have a friend like this. They suspiciously went from never drawing to drawing full body, great anatomy pieces. I remember one time I recognized exactly where they had traced it from because it was just a straight up trace of an image from a video game that we both played, and you could overlay it on top and it was just completely traced. And I was like, isn't this traced? And they were like, how dare you? I put so much effort into this work and learning the anatomy. I'm never going to show you anything I've ever drawn again. And I was like, Okay, but now there's no victim, so I guess it's like less chance of being caught. There's no image that someone could find on the internet that you clearly traced it from. There's no artist or account that's going to be like, hey, you're stealing my work. You can just generate these images and then just pretend you drew them, and I guess it's a bit easier to get away with that way is the thinking. But I made a video a while ago, you might have seen it. It went kind of big on art YouTube. It's currently sitting at 300,000 views, but I'll just describe it. It's just the one about AI speed paints. So initially when people were trying to pretend that they drew their art, they just post it on Instagram and put hashtag digital illustration, hashtag painting, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of funny back then because these people clearly weren't artists and they weren't very sophisticated at what they were doing. So they'd post this and then people would be like, this is AI art. You didn't draw this. Why are you claiming to draw it? And they'd be like, I totally did. Why don't you believe me? But that was when AI art wasn't that great. And these people just, you know, they weren't artists. They didn't have the eye to be able to look at the piece and see where all of the shading didn't make sense, all of the rendering, all of the weird hair that's like morphing into each other, all of the 37 fingers, whatever it is. They were just like, I don't know why people aren't believing that I drew this. This is crazy. But anyway, AI got good and these people got better at faking and they started to realize more what like an actual speed paint would look like. And they're more sophisticated now than they ever have been at trying to create realistic fake speed paints. Essentially, in my video, I talked about how OpenAI came out with a video generation model called Sora that's so old and outdated now because things move so fast. AI generated video got so much better, but I was instantly like, oh, people are definitely going to use this to create AI speed paints. And lo and behold, a couple of months later, someone put all of this effort into scraping all of these, I guess, Procreate speed paints that artists had uploaded. They created a program where you can put an image and then it will generate a bunch of images of the process. So it will generate what the sketch might have looked like, what the flat color stage might have looked like, and then it could also generate a full video, which I will say was partially convincing. A lot of people in the comment section of that video will point out that if you're an artist and you make art and you're used to looking at speed paints and know what they look like, you'll see a lot of the inconsistencies. But essentially my whole point was that was when this AI speed paint generator was brand new, so that is, you know, the worst that this technology will ever be. And I think that if I wasn't an artist and I didn't know what the average speed paint would look like, then I think that the average layperson would have been fooled by even that, and it's only going to get better. I'm not gonna name names, but there is a very prolific AI art account on Instagram right now that is blatantly just using images that were clearly generated from ChatGPT, because I recognize that illustration style, and they have slowly improved their ability to fake these speed paints of this AI work that they didn't draw but claim heavily to draw. They're putting in so much effort and so many hours at this point that I'm like, surely this payoff is not worth it. You're not getting anything out of it. At this point, you might as well just learn how to draw with all this effort you're putting into this elaborate troll. Or I don't really know what the motivation is, but it's quite funny to look down on this person's timeline on TikTok and you'll see originally they weren't as great at creating the fake speed paints. It would be like, you know, they just draw the line art perfectly first time around, flat colors perfectly, no changes, no nothing. It would be so neat. And then you look at their most recent videos and it's like, oh, suddenly now I'm doing, you know, multiple sketches before I land on a final design, and they're putting in all of these little like effortful quote-unquote mistakes, and it's like, oh, why did your process get worse then? Why did you suddenly go to, you know, from being able to draw perfect line out straight up, now you need multiple sketches? It's quite funny to see the sophistication and their dedication to the craft of creating AI art over time. But as I'm sure you're aware, this is causing a lot of problems for regular artists because it's causing these huge AI witch hunts. Everybody is on the lookout for something that is AI generated. I actually feel like it's just tearing the online art community apart in a sense. It was so much easier to spot AI work before when it was worse quality. Now I find myself scrolling through Pinterest actually seeing art pieces that I'm really interested to seek out who's the creator of the artwork. I'm like, these are so amazing, all of these works in a consistent style. I'm so excited to see their work and learn from them, give them a follow, support them. And then when I figure out where it came from, I figure out, oh, there is no actual artist behind this work. I think it's generally devaluing digital work and specific styles as well. Having been someone who's kept a good eye on AI from the start, there's some very specific styles that I will just assume are AI. I won't even question it. I will scroll through. It's kind of like this style, sort of like the Ilya Kushinov style, very much these drawings of beautiful girls and those super detailed anime paintings as well. Those styles have been absolutely bastardized. If I scroll past them, I wouldn't even need to look at them and zoom in and look at all of the individual problems. I'm just instantly like, yeah, that is a Midjourney style, that is a ChatGPT style, and I will just assume it. There is a very specific style that they tend to copy, but the problem is obviously that those AI art styles came from somewhere. So when I myself and other people look at them and just instantly assume it's AI because we're so used to seeing people generate in that particular style, you know, there's plenty of artists who actually do have those art styles. I think especially the entirety of the artists on Pixiv have those styles. It was just scraped. A while ago, I was scrolling through my Instagram feed and I was looking at an artwork. My boyfriend was next to me. He leaned over and he was like, that is AI. And I knew that it wasn't because I'd followed this artist for literally 10 years or something at this point. But if I didn't know them, I'd probably think the same, and I'm sure they get plenty of accusations all of the time. I think certain styles, and honestly digital art in itself, is kind of tainted. When digital art first became a thing, there was this notion and pushback that, oh, the computer does everything for you. And you know, really it was just, you know, you have selection tools and fill tools and all these things that make the process easier, but ultimately you're still drawing like you would on paper. It's the same skill. Now there's more so this attitude, probably from a lot of people who don't draw, that they will just assume that the computer does it all for you. And more we have these new generations of children who were grown up on the internet, where they will grow up with AI being everywhere and very, very normalized. This AI boom only took off, I guess, around 2021 kind of time initially, and there have been studies to suggest that already about 50% of the content on the internet is likely AI generated images, articles, research papers, whatever it is. So it's kind of leaning towards it becoming the norm that anything that you see online that is digital art piece, people might just assume is AI until proven otherwise, instead of the other way around. It has influenced my practice and my work and what I'm looking to do with it as well. It's kind of pushed me personally to go back to a more kind of sketchy, loose style, not make everything so finished and polished, just have more human, loose energy. I've also experimented more with traditional art as well. I just don't want my art to look anywhere near any of those AI generated styles. But even now, people are generating sketchy, loose AI images, so really the only way to have proved that you've made something is traditional art, I suppose. I don't know if we're going to see a big resurgence in that in the future. We're not particularly already. I do understand what people are doing with these AI witch hunts. They just want to call out bad actors, but it does have real implications for real artists' careers. There was a situation a while ago where an artist was making art pieces for a game. A lot of people suspected that it was AI because of the style, so they reached out to the games company to warn them of this and basically tell them, we're going to boycott your game, you have to get rid of this, you have to change this. You might not realize that this artist who's working for you is not making these pieces themselves. This turned into a huge thing. There was a lot of accusations thrown at this artist, and the company was trying to drop them and were, you know, doing investigation. This artist got completely slandered. They had to post so much proof that they made their work. They'd always worked in this style before AI art was even a thing. Eventually, the company apologized and issued a statement, and I think they gave them like a free art tablet, which is nice, but probably not enough to cover the permanent damage. And now, whenever you search this person's name online, it's probably going to come up with a bunch of videos, posts, comments talking about how this person made AI-generated art when they didn't. So if they try to go get a job in a studio or get another freelance art job, that, you know, name, that association is maybe going to hang over them and actually impact their career. So then we come to people lying for money, which, as I say, I can understand the gain of this. I think the hilarious thing with that, though, is there's a lot of people who came out with videos, I'm making 15 grand a day off of these AI generated children's books, off of these print on demand AI generated prints, and you can too. That was a really big trend. A lot of these people are obviously not making those numbers at all. that's completely fabricated, but they just wanted to get in on the act of creating a video to sell to other people the idea that they could get rich quick, which is a very, just common scheme on YouTube. It's a very good clickable title. I made 50 grand, no effort, just selling print on demand AI art on Etsy, and then because it's a tutorial, people are more likely to watch the whole way through. It gets good watch time, whatever. They move on and they make another video, but then a lot of people follow these and they flood all of these sites with AI generated content. Just think that it's so funny because there's always been this stereotype of the starving artist and that you shouldn't become an artist because artists don't make a lot of money, and no parent really wants their child to pursue art because they're like, how are you going to make a living? It's so competitive, people don't make that much. And now all of these people seem to want a piece of the pie now that they can create AI art. Just a huge flood of people making AI books, AI prints, and then they're not making much money and they're like, hang on a minute, why aren't I making money? And getting confused. They're like, where's the money? Where's the 15 grand a day I was promised by this YouTube video? And I'm like, what happened to the stereotypes over time of artists being poor? All of a sudden, it's just so black and white with it all. Have you noticed that? Like back and forth that, the opinion seems to flick for these people when it is convenient between, oh, artists are so privileged and they make a ton of money, to, oh, artists are so poor, why would you be an artist? You'll be a starving artist. It's kind of just back and forth. And then also on the easiness of AI art as well, I'll see these AI bros be like, making art is so hard. Like, why would people even bother with that? Like, adapt or die. We don't need you anymore. We can create AI art super fast, super efficiently. It's so easy. And then it flicks right back around to, oh, actually AI art is so hard. It's so difficult. Prompt writing is so hard. Scraping all these images and fine-tuning my model is so hard when they want the praise for the effort. It's really funny how it just flits back and forth between those whenever is convenient. Make up your mind, is it so great because it's easy, or is it actually so much harder than you think? It's so much harder to generate a good AI image. You can't just type girl holding ball and get a pretty picture. No. So one thing that I was made aware of a year ago, it's probably more of a problem now, is AI generated crochet patterns on Etsy. So Etsy used to be a really great place for people to craft and create handmade pieces like jewelry, for example. You can get a very specific handmade custom item for yourself or for a loved one or whatever. It was very anti-fast fashion, anti-machine made, anti-capitalism, just handmade goods with a personal touch. Now everything has changed because Etsy's basically become a big drop shipping platform. There's big companies selling on there, and also what people are doing is selling AI generated crochet patterns as well. That's just one of the examples of things that are going on there, but essentially crochet takes a lot of time. People generally don't sell crochet pieces as much because people can be very entitled and expect fast fashion prices. In reality, people take a lot of skill, a lot of time, a lot of materials to hand make these in order to allow them to pay themselves a minimum wage. These custom crochet pieces would probably be hundreds of pounds. So in order to help out people who want their designs and also help out beginner crocheters, there's crochet patterns, so basically a list of instructions about how to create something, but then the person who buys it, depending on their skill level, they can make some adjustments, or they can change the wool color or the materials or whatever it is. It's really convenient. But what people are doing, they go to ChatGPT and then they get it to generate, for example, generate me a cute crochet tiny teddy bear, right? And then they ask ChatGPT, okay, now create the pattern for this. Now, a big misconception is that AI is intelligent. It's not in any way. These large language modules basically are just trying to predict the most likely response to a question. It's a Chinese room. If you don't know that, feel free to just look up the Chinese room experiment, but it doesn't really understand anything at this current point. It can produce responses that seem intelligent. It itself is not necessarily understanding anything that you are giving it or it's giving back to you. It cannot simulate in its mind what this crochet piece would look like as a 3D object, understand how crochet works, and understand how to compute the best pattern to get to that finished result. It just doesn't have that capability at the moment. So basically it just spits out a bunch of random garbage when someone buys the pattern, especially if they're a beginner who's just learning and just trying to get into crochet by following other people's patterns before they can make their own. They're basically just going to get this really nice picture, really nice laid out design, be super excited to make it, spend their money on it, and then they are going to get those instructions which basically teach them how to make a big like lopsided ball, and then they might have confusion. Have I done something wrong? Am I just really bad at crochet? Because these people don't disclose it's AI. People know that disclosing it will, for some reason, I can't imagine why, make people less inclined to buy it. Another thing is Kindle Direct Publishing on Amazon. You can just send Amazon a PDF file of your book, and then they can just make it for you, print on demand. So lots of people will sell their books that way because it's really convenient, but Amazon's being flooded by, AI books. I'm just going to talk about the AI coloring books. So you have to understand that when you make a coloring book, there's a reason why it takes so long for an artist to make it. That's because you have to put in a lot of effort into making the line work and just making sure that it all makes sense and is easy to color. So a lot of the people who will buy coloring books, these adult coloring books, or even books for their children, so it might be young kids or older adults, they have problems understanding what's going on the internet on the best of times, but maybe not particularly knowledgeable about AI or even what AI is. There's plenty of people who don't know what AI is. These people sell these books, they don't disclose that it's AI. As you know, AI generated images are very famous for having a lot of things kind of warping into each other, lines not closing, lines randomly disappearing halfway through, just general forms not making sense. So even though when it looks great on the product photos, great when you look like it's like a nice detailed drawing of a beautiful witchy house or whatever, there will be these bits that when you actually get to coloring it, it just doesn't make sense because objects will just morph into each other, lines don't close, and then you have all of these poor reviews from these people who don't really understand what it is that they've bought, but they just understand that this coloring book is not good. Coloring is meant to be a relaxing process, but they're not having a good experience with those books because they're just spending half the time trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So instead of being a nice relaxing hobby that they can just mindlessly sit there and color, it's just actually a stressful experience. And then AI is also rocking the writing community. As you know, AI has basically scraped everything available on the internet. A lot of that is articles, research papers, non-fiction. So I honestly don't even think that AI is really that great at writing fiction. There's actually plenty of AI-generated research papers on the internet where, people might have done real research, but then they've written it up with AI and there's like still prompts left in the published paper. And I just wonder who is reading this? How is this getting published in journals online? I have no clue. But essentially, there's recently been a big scandal. There was an author who wrote a 3-part book series. Usually that might take, a couple of years, the process of writing it, rewriting it, going through a harsh editing process, getting it ready for publication, but they wrote 3 books in a row in a very suspiciously short amount of time, so people were already expecting that this might be AI or AI assisted. Then, I think it was the 3rd book in the series, one of the most recent books, she left a prompt in the middle of the book, so there's just a regular paragraph, stuff is happening, and then there's a sentence which says, "Sure, let me reformat this next paragraph for you to make it more emotionally intense," and that's just left in the book. And I just think it's really demeaning to the people who support you and read your book that you didn't even bother to reread the book that you're putting out once. You didn't even bother to get an editor, a proofreader, a test reader. You didn't even reread it once, otherwise you would have seen such an obvious mistake. Why should people give their money to read something if you couldn't even be bothered to write it? And it's the same with big companies. Big companies are using AI in advertisement, marketing. It just turns people off because as soon as they detect AI, they think, wow, this company can't be bothered to put effort into marketing. They're cutting corners, so how many corners have they cut with the product? If the advertisement is this low quality, the product must be low quality. There's AI generated models in a Vogue magazine, which is so silly. I know that Photoshop has always existed. Models have always been, airbrushed. You will go on any kind of website to buy clothes and you'll see that the models have been liquefied so that their waist is inhumanly small, so it looks like this dress is like super bodycon and make you gonna look super snatched, but obviously it's all unrealistic. And there's always that thing where they do, color variations of clothes, but they've just edited the same photos so you can't actually see what that color would look like in real life, in lighting, on a person. I mean, it just gets more ridiculous if we're generating entire models, entire people wearing fake clothing. How are you supposed to get any idea of what it would look like if you were to order it? I mean, that's why I don't order clothes online in the first place, but they can always put up fake product photos, but it just makes it easier, doesn't it? It just makes it worse and more commonplace. And I mean, these big magazines, I'm pretty sure they just did it for a publicity scandal, to be honest, to get people talking about their their magazine. But yeah, it's just not good how lazy everything is becoming. So that is everything, guys. I've come to the end of my big long list of points that I wanted to talk around and talk through today, but I don't want to leave you guys on a depressing note. I just wanted to get this off my chest and just have a conversation about it. If anyone else has any thoughts similar, let me know. Maybe this externalized some things that you've been thinking about possibly already, or not. Maybe you have a different opinion. Let me know in the comments section. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to leave you guys on a negative note, so I'll just say I also think that artists will persist due to the joy and, you know, personal growth that it brings to create. I think there will be an equal and opposite art movement where people start to value coming offline, coming back into the real world, start to gravitate towards handmade crafts, and there'll be an equal and opposite, you know, community movement. It won't carry everybody, but I think we will persist. You know, the horrors persist, but so do we. But I just wanted to have a chat about it. I think it's interesting, I think it's concerning, and it was just building up inside of me, and I just needed to get it out into the world. A little bit therapeutic for myself, but I just want to say I would really appreciate it if you came this far, if you would be willing to help me out in the algorithm, even if you don't have your own thoughts to leave in the comment section. If you leave some kind of interaction, it really helps this video in the algorithm. A like or just a comment of a star emoji will tell the algorithm that you thought this video was interesting enough to engage. Sharing and copying the link is the most effective thing that you can do to help me and my channel, so if you just leave a star emoji in the comment section, like or share, I would really appreciate it, you know, just to let me know that you actually got to the end of this video. Please let me know your thoughts, your concerns, or, you know, do you feel quite optimistic about things that they will all sort themselves out? I don't know. What do you think will happen? How are you feeling about the whole situation? Let me know, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye guys.